Looking at the feedback for Apex, I'm quite a happy man as I record this. It's the first of the stories that I've written where, when I've sat back and looked over it and had a cup of tea, I've just worried that I've gone a little bit too Hollywood, a bit too cliche on it. A lot of the stories that we've looked at so far have largely been based around real events or real people. This one's the first one that's just gone off grid and been completely made up. And I guess I worried that people were just going to react to it a little negatively, but they haven't. The introduction of our lizard man at the end seemed to catch quite a few people off guard. That pleases me greatly. I think most people believe that either our injured policeman or our shotgun wielding little heroine were going to save the day, but no, it turned out to be the Scape or Swamp Monster, which is one of the scripts I wrote for bedtime stories. When I looked at the artwork that Sean had sent over, I loved it. When does Sean do anything I don't love? But I did have to ask if he'd used Rhys Ifans and the lizard from Spider-Man 2 as an inspiration. And his answer was, if he did, it was completely unintentional and subliminal, and he didn't mean to do it, which is fine, because it looks great. The overall aim of the episode, in essence, was to do a bit of a parody of Captain America, to look at a World War II super soldier and just try and be a little bit more realistic and grounded about it. That's something I want to continue in future episodes, and in particular there's one where I want to take the trope of, oh look, here's some Allied commandos, they're breaking into a Nazi science lab, ooh, zombies, and kind of flip that on its head. Maybe have some Germans creeping into an Allied science lab. I don't know. I've always wanted to keep things a little bit ambiguous in terms of sort of secret powers or backgrounds of the entities in the stories, and I've tried to do that with Katsuro. There's a hint of a super serum, that it can heal him, that it can give him strong powers, but more importantly, there's evidence of massive surgical enhancement and mental reprogramming, and the darker side that you'd perhaps expect to come with super soldiers that maybe Marvel glossed over a little bit. And if anybody in World War II Japan was going to create a monstrosity like this, it would be the infamous Unit 731. These guys were literally the worst. They represented everything that was bad about Japanese attitudes to warfare and other races and society. The unit was originally formed in 1935 to explore the possibilities of chemical and bioweaponry, and then with the outbreak of World War II, it was quickly co-opted into the army. There was literally no depths they would sink to in terms of experimenting on prisoners of war. And I'm not going to go into great detail here about that for a couple of reasons. One, it's sick. And the other is that I know that Luke and Rich have had multiple requests to do videos on Unit 731 for bedtime stories and for wartime stories. So might be there'll be a full episode at some point in the future. But a taster would be an example where they took Chinese prisoners of war and infected them with bubonic plague. They'd then transfer the infected blood out of the prisoners who'd be killed and then transfuse that into more prisoners. And in doing so, they'd upgrade the virus. Once they'd done that 5 or 6 times and got their 5th generation of bubonic plague, having killed everybody it was infected with, they'd take the last set of victims and infect them with fleas, and then pack the fleas into bomb casings. So in October 1940, such shells were then dropped onto a Chinese village, producing a massive red haze of infected fleas, which killed about 2,000 people straight out from plague, and another 1,000 further down the line. That's in addition to the people they've killed to make the disease in the first place. So yeah, real nice guys. As soon as I read up on the history of the I-400 class of Super Sub, I just fell in love with it. I'd love to write a movie script on it, to be honest. And I've resolved that I'm probably going to do a short video just on the I-400 itself, like I did for the Secret Weapons one. They were the brainchild of Admiral Yamamoto, who was the architect of Pearl Harbor, and the idea being that Japanese aircraft had successfully bombed the US mainland before, so why not replicate that again and get them up close with an underwater aircraft carrier. Each sub was designed to carry 3 seaplanes that had been purpose-built to go into a massive pressure hangar that was built into the sub, and the subs were equipped with torpedo tubes and heavy weaponry to defend themselves. From the outset, their main goal was to sail to Panama and destroy the locking gates on the Panama Canal. But as the war declined and it became clearer that that wasn't going to work out, they were switched to more localized targets instead. In the event, they were all either sunk or captured. And after fully inspecting them after the war, the US Navy took I-400 and I-41 and sank them off the coast of Hawaii, where they still are today. They were rediscovered recently. You can probably Google trips down to them on YouTube. But the technology that went into these subs and the training and the sacrifice of the crews that were involved in that project were immense. They're a massive example of what could have been. And the I-400s were the biggest submarines ever built until nuclear subs came along. I have had a couple of requests to do a sequel to Apex. There is one already planned out ahead of those requests, which started out as an idea for the sub being sunk several days later off the coast, and some chemicals washing ashore that go on to corrupt the local wildlife. But the more I've thought about it, maybe there was another warrior in that hangar, and we just deliberately didn't mention him. And maybe when the sub gets sunk, he swims ashore to a swamp that doesn't have a monster. I'll have to see about that one. There's no real science behind the decision to use Bald Head Island as a staging post. I was just looking for somewhere with a swamp, to be honest. And initially I'd looked at the Florida Keys, but then the geography of the sub travelling and making landfall pulled me back up the coast towards North Carolina. I wanted somewhere inaccessible, somewhere to take the authorities to get reinforcements, a bit of time to get to. And looking on the map, the isolated nature of Bald Head Island worked. I hope anybody there who watches this takes in the script it's intended and has a bit of a harmless laugh about it. Fun facts, it's situated at the tip of Cape Fear. Yes, that Cape Fear, literally everybody's favourite cape. And it was used as a filming location for the comedy movie Weekend at Bernie's. Might need to ask your dad. It was also used as a staging point during the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. There's a standing population of about 200 residents there, and it's largely a tourist retreat and nature reserve now. Last up, I've had a little bit of stick in the past for a lack of female inclusivity in my stories. I guess my defence for that, which I will offer, is that the overwhelming bulk of the research I've done revolves around World War II battles, and in truth, there haven't generally been many female characters emerge from that. I'm sorry, I kind of see it as the nature of the beast, and if I can rectify it in future scripts moving forward, I will try to do so. I have already had one suggestion from a viewer that perhaps Little Miss Burnett should feature in a Vietnam episode in the future, where she's enlisted as a nurse and the strangeness fellows are out there. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not having thought of that before. So that's gone down on the list. And lastly, if you were at all wondering where the forename Lavinia came from for our feisty little heroine this week, it's a name that's quite special to me, and it just happens to belong to the toughest little fighter that I happen to know. God bless her. Anyway, thank you again, and I will catch you guys next time around.